The following segment is sponsored by Food City. Sponsored by Food City.
Well, it was another successful season for the Tennessee Volunteers in the Josh Heupel era, another 10-win season, but it did come to an end on Saturday night in Columbus, losing to the Ohio State Buckeyes 42-17 in the first round of the college football playoff. Johnson and Lauren Bradford, as we kind of just look back on this season, it's not the expected or wanted outcome, but this is it for the Vols as their trip comes to an end in what was a cold one from Columbus, 20-degree temperatures. They're trying to warm themselves up and get out to Pasadena to play top-seeded Oregon in the Rose Bowl, but that will be granted to the Ohio State Buckeyes for a rematch there. And Lauren, it's tough to kind of look at it in a positive light because it just turned out so roughly if you look at it from the outside, but they took a big step forward this year.
It is. Obviously, it's not the way that you wanted to end a season when they had so much to look forward to heading into the season, so many pieces throughout the season that were just kind of, I don't want to say shocking, but I think that they just over-delivered early, kind of set the bar really high, and so the Tennessee Vols fans are slowly getting back into that culture of expecting to win, whereas that hasn't necessarily been the case in recent years. Josh Heupel has built this culture, and a big part of that has been around this group of seniors that stayed with the program when Heupel joined, and it was able to build a culture here that will continue to grow and flourish with all of those seniors leaving their mark on the young guys that are still in Tennessee and will be in Knoxville next year.
Yeah, and when it comes down to, those guys that will be coming back, though, I think they took a lot of strides in that kind of it. If you look back on the season, I mean, there was ups and downs, but I think we could say that Nico Iamaleava's just step forward, I think, was big at the quarterback position. Obviously didn't have the best night on Saturday, but he used his legs quite a bit. I think that's something, optimism there, is that he knows how to use his legs. But the guy in the backfield that it just didn't go well this time around, but a guy they leaned on so in a historic year was Dylan Sampson.
It was. He set so many records this year. He did great things for them. I think he ended with 22 touchdowns this season. Just impeccable. And he truly was the it factor on this Volunteer team. He got him going when they were struggling, and he made a difference in so many games this season.
And I think that's the frustrating part, too, is that it comes to an end where he only had 2 carries for 6 yards, a tough way to go out. But if we look back at the whole season, Lauren, I think for me, going to all the home games, and you went to the Alabama game,
and the Chattanooga game.
And the Chattanooga. You were there for the opener when they put up how many? 68? 60, something. When kind of that offensive explosion early on against the lower level teams. But just one thing that going into the game against Ohio State that I was worried about for them was playing on the road in these kind of environments. And we know how they get the advantage put towards them when they're playing inside Neyland, but we just weren't sure if they were ready to take that step and win on the road. Something we've talked about, 22 straight losses on the road to top 10 ranked teams. That's kind of just something that's lingering in the program's history. But it was just it felt like they had a lot of juice this year just from being at the games. It was a huge step in the program, but I just feel like they just didn't have quite enough juice just to contend as one of the prominent programs in the country, at least for this year.
Yeah, I would say Nico did talk about it after the game about how the crowd noise at away games has impacted him. I think that may also be kind of a youth thing. You got to get over that, especially as the quarterback. You can't let a road environment affect you. And truly, I don't even know that Columbus was the road environment that everyone expected it to be. So many Tennessee fans showed out in Columbus at a bunch of away games this season, and especially at the home games. You really saw the buy-in in the program from that fan side, and everyone, talked about the disappointment that they felt, not only for the team and the people inside the program, but for the fan base that was there for every step of the way.
And that was one thing that really stood out to me, just covering the Vols over these past 2 falls. If we want to go into what we come from before, I come from Syracuse, New York, and in the Dome, where football hasn't been the greatest the last 20 years, and probably the best crowd I've seen is about 50, probably 50,000 people. And I know you going to Clemson, they gets pretty rowdy there. You go to Virginia Tech, and they have the immaculate entrance, but just something about Neyland Stadium and this fan base, and the fact that they started to fill in the horseshoe before pregame. Ohio State started to fill it out later on, closer to the game, but the amount of orange we saw this weekend was incredible.
It was, and like you said, 101 capacity at Neyland. Most of the time, that looked completely orange out. So they definitely left their mark. They showed that they wanted to show up and support this program, and hopefully for the fan base and for the team and for everyone involved, they're able to take that step the next year and continue to grow and continue to give the fan base that high expectation. You want to have those high expectations. You don't want to let the fans down, but you want to have them. You want people to expect greatness out of you. And I think that this group has started to create this culture and kind of set the standard going forward.
Right, so the next part of this is just what the program looks like next year. They brought in, Josh Heupel talked about in the week leading up to this first round of the college football playoff, they had signees there, kind of getting accustomed to what practices look like in preparation of game week and in the most immaculate way of going into a college football playoff game. They're getting thrown into it. So what this thing looks like next year and moving forward, especially with all the seniors leaving. You were there and listened to the post-game press conference. What was kind of the vibe that you got coming from that after the loss?
I think the vibe, as we talked to Omari Thomas, Cooper Mays, these people that have had huge impacts on this team, on this program, and it was just like they wanted to leave the legacy that you can stay at a place and really it gives back to you as much as you're taking from it. He was like, Cooper was talking about, I hope people understand, like, I loved coming into the building every day and being a part of this team, and they're hoping that they know that they've set the standard and that the guys coming up behind them can achieve that level of greatness. And obviously you have two very talented guys that have gotten a lot of snaps there. But we also talked to Will Brooks, who had a more unconventional, the walk-on, earned a scholarship, and made so many huge plays for this team this year. And he was like, I want people to know that, you don't always have to come out of the gates and be that star player to make an impact on this team. You take every opportunity you get and take advantage of that and grow from that and just appreciate everything that this program can give for you.
And there's a lot of those guys that started their career here where things weren't going that great, and then when Josh Heupel came in, they kind of grew alongside Heupel and this coaching staff. So it's going to be tough for Vols Nation to say goodbye to some of those guys. I know one of the fan favorites, media favorites even, just doing great talker, after games, after practice, was Cooper Mays, guys like that. I don't know, this is going to be an interesting transition into the future, but I don't know. And what else, like, from the post game when you're sitting in there outside of the seniors, just the overall feeling coming out of the loss where they felt like they were right there and it just didn't happen? What were you feeling like with the frustration turning into optimism, though?
I think it was just like there was optimism around getting to this point and understanding that you were good enough to get to this point and the amount of work that it takes to get to this point. They know what it takes to get here. Now that they know, next year you're going to have to do a little more. You're going to have to figure it out and make sure that you can make that next jump. And it's going to be, everyone's got to buy in and be 100%. And, as their offensive coordinator was talking about after the game, there are a lot of open positions. There are a lot of spots up for grab. You have a ton of offensive line, defensive line, your running back, wide receivers, so many holes to fill. And it's like, obviously the transfer portal, you're going to have some guys via that, but everybody has an opportunity to step up and show their worth. And I mean, it's all ahead of them. It's up to them to put the work in and to earn that spot.
Well, another 10-win season for the Vols. It's one they can look back on and build off of, as you said. So, but that's it. I mean, college football is a wrap for our coverage for the Tennessee Vols this season. But it was a great ride.
It was fun.
It was a good ride.
We had a lot of fun, both of us, I think.
Yeah, love talking about them on our podcast every week. They were kind of the highlight of it most of the time, the best program across our region. But with that being said, that'll be a wrap here. Lauren Bradford and Cole Johnson from Ohio Stadium in Columbus.